I showed up. I'm doing it. We streaming. Great. We're gonna do the big square. I like squares. What's good? What's good? Yeah, today I'm gonna be drawing the main cast. Methinks we're gonna be doing a 2026 celebration. We're welcoming the new year. This means we also get in 2026, Mitch. Let's go. Good to see you here too, Prime. Indeed. Happy New Year. Hopefully, it's going to be a good one. Your boy Mitch is going to have a more reserved haircut. He's going to look a bit older. It's about time. Yeah, he's getting a bit of a makeover. We got to get him ready for Mitch-Kun's mansion. We're done with the prologue. We're getting into the meat and potatoes. I try not really to have New Year's resolutions. A lot of the times those end up not going well. I kind of made a comment to one of El Pat's posts recently that kind of sums up the way that I'm going to go about making goals this year, which is something that I learned from my college course. I'm going to be making SMART goals this year, but I haven't come up with that yet. Part of that is why I did that poll on DeviantArt to figure out what you guys want to see from me so that I can start building the goals around obviously things that I want to work on, but focusing on the things that, you guys want to see first and then working my way down that way. Like on a broad scale, I know what I want to do more of this year, but I need to set those specific goals. I'm going to have goals this year, but I don't want to make those without assessing where I was at this year, figuring out like how much time I'm actually going to have, which again, I got courses starting in a couple of weeks roundabout. So I know I'm going to be pretty busy up until the end of May, but I'm not planning to take any summer classes. So summer is really probably going to be the area where I experience both the most growth and have the most free time to like make stuff. But yeah, for this illustration, I'm gonna try to incorporate obviously much more detailed renders, but I want to base them off of the Mitch-Kun's Mansion series version of them, especially the ones that I did the shorthand versions of traditionally at the start of last semester. So the new versions of Mitch, Viv's, um, Billy, that's going to show up in this illustration is my plan, along with some other characters that I haven't really drawn much, but are going to be key to the series. So this is going to be an interesting art. And like real talk, I may even just like workshop some of those designs here before finalizing them specifically in this art. We'll see where it goes. Because basically, I want to have my characters aura farming in celebration of 2026. But we'll see how it goes. Piccolo won't allow it. He'll have to deal with it. No, like I was talking in the Discord, I've always wanted to do something similar to like the Kingdom Hearts 2 art and or the freaking the 2.8 one specifically, where like they're walking. I've always wanted to do something like that. So we'll see. First things first, I have to like iron out the designs in the more like actual Kingdom Hearts full illustration style based on the shorthands that I did. Look, I'm not gonna lie. As intimidating as he may be, I'm pretty sure Billy's got me covered. I'm not worried. Explain. I'll explain to you very simply. Billy is what's known as a Leviathan. She has the full capacity to destroy a god. But yeah, Chrissy, I do agree. You need to start updating your PFPs and stuff. Let's see. If I keep it like this based on that rotation, it's gonna look more like he's standing than walking. I think I need to have the lower portion of the torso twist back. Yeah, you wouldn't expect Billy to be that powerful at a glance. Like, she looks strong, but you wouldn't think, oh, like, god-ending threat. But that's exactly why she was a threat to Mitch, who's only a demigod at best. Like, for context, in their encounter, she completely destroyed his Keyblade with one bite back when she was a Feraligatr and still male. Like, and she was able to swim at and beat his swim speed. And that's the Latios able to reach Mach, like what, Mach 1? Yeah, no, Billy's terrifying. You would not want to get in a fight with her. That's why Mitch noped the heck out. Again, she has power equivalent, I would say, to, if not exceeding, a god. It would be hard to say, honestly, but she was made with the capacity to consume and exceed godhood in mind. Because Leviathans are essentially, like, at their start, they are primal concepts that existed before gods and conscious entities even did, and they inhabit a body. So they've essentially had time to stew longer than everything else in existence. Oh no, exceeding demigod strength. Mitch has about demigod strength. Because, like, Mitch has creator powers, but they're limited. He has to use specific mediums. He can't just will things to happen. And in fact, even though he can reach like Mach 1, initially, when he was first on his journey, he couldn't actually maintain that without passing out. He has very human durability. I know a little bit about Common Rider because we got a buddy in my server that I know, super into it. I know a little about it. I haven't looked into it, but dude's super into Toku, so I know a little bit about it, if only thanks to him. Yeah, feel free to explain. I don't mind people lore dumping. I do it all the time. It's only fair. I can't say I'll understand it in the same way that I can't say I expect anyone to understand what I'm rambling about, but I am entirely here for it. Yeah, I figured you'd understand it a little bit better than me, Chris. I've never been into that kind of stuff. It seems like it would be interesting, and I might enjoy it, but especially since I haven't had, I guess, as much free time as I'd like anymore, and I hyperfixate on very specific things. Jumping into something new is not something I just readily do. And your boy is going to struggle a lot because he's not using references. I should be. I'm forcing myself to figure this out. Y'all get to watch me struggle, and you get to see my crappy anatomy unfolding. You know, that's kind of interesting. That's sort of like like being able to use like the past and future and like being able to essentially rewrite history, that kind of ties to some of the meta narrative power that Leviathans have, in that they are consciously aware of the flow of time in a way that other beings are not. So like they are constantly in tune with themselves across time. So they know like the events that are going to occur and the events that have occurred, and they have the capacity to change that. So there are characters that exist outside of narrative, and that's actually one of the sticking points for Cornelius slash Cornelia in particular. Oh, you'd better. Trust me, I have so many plans for the Cornelius to Cornelia like plot pipeline. It's not even funny. We'll see how well they decide to play along with this, because again, they're aware of the narrative. If something happens that I plan, it's because they allow it to happen. Otherwise, they're mostly an antagonist to me as an author, not Mitch as a character. Though they right now think that the two are the same. Oh yeah, no, trust me. I've put a lot of thought into this crap. Maybe too much thought. Maybe Tetsuya Nomura level thought. Guys, I think I'm making that mistake that I'll always make. So if the left arm is going forward in a walk cycle, that should mean that the left leg should be back and the right leg should be forward. I think that's typically how one walks, right? I think. I mean, that's typically how people walk, right? So like I'm at a crossroads. I have to switch one of these. That is so frustrating. Again, it'd be one thing if he's like standing, but if I'm trying to sell the idea of walking, I'm gonna have to pick one and swap it. I think. Yeah, like he's looking good overall. I'm digging it. It's just to make the pose and the action that I'm trying to get, I'm gonna have to make some changes. Like it's starting. The foundation is starting to come together. I'm definitely gonna have to refine it. The proportions are off, but again, to be clear, this is not something I do a lot because of how intimidating it's been. It's something I've always wanted to do. Is to draw characters walking. And it's easy to do it from the side because you can be a little bit more exaggerated, but to draw a character walking from the front, that really tests your ability to use foreshortening, and it tests your understanding of the anatomy of like the hips, the waist, and the legs in a different way than it does by just showing them like static. So this is good. This is a good challenge, and I'm sure I'll work my way around it. But I'm just acknowledging that it is going to be a challenge. It's not something I do a lot because of that reason. Yeah, no, again, typically speaking, from my understanding, that's how most people walk, is that it's like if your right arm is forward, then your right leg is back, and vice versa. That seems like the most natural gait. Yeah, so it would be something like that. Obviously, it still needs work, but you're starting to see what I'm trying to get at, though, right? Yeah, so like vaguely this. Obviously, I need to fix some things, but this looks a bit more like walking than before, where it kind of looked the one that I was doing before kind of seems like it too directly drew inspiration from the very classic Kingdom Hearts 2 art of Sora standing with his arm out front rather than it looking like a like part of a walk. So yeah, well the proportions are still a bit off. Like his head is clearly more detailed and bigger than the rest of the body. That needs to be fixed. I'm not going to deny that one. The overall flow is pretty correct. It could do with more exaggeration, I think, but that's understandable given how unsure I am with this kind of pose and how I'm still kind of learning my way around foreshortening anatomy like this. I'm not really going to hold myself too too critical on that. This is already significantly more different than a lot of the stuff that I usually do, and it's more accurate than any of the other attempts that I think I've ever made at this. Yeah, no, I'm confident I can feel it out. Like a younger version of me might give up already, or might have given up like what, half an hour ago, probably. But you know, things are different now. Things are a lot different now. I do think we need to make his body bigger, though. The head's a little too big compared to everything else. It's a trap that it's easy to fall into if you're very like facially focused and care a lot about character emotion expression. It subtly reflects in like your proportioning as well. So that is something to be in mind, to be mindful about in general as an artist as well. I'm not the only one who falls into this trap. It's very common for people that are very invested in character emotion expression. And again, this is all still just a rough draft. I knew there's no way I'm gonna finish this art like before New Year's. I don't think that like I'm not gonna kid myself. It usually takes me several days to finish an art that has I'd say more than 4 or 5 characters. I can do something with like anywhere from 2 to 4-ish characters in like a couple days, realistically. But this one's definitely gonna take me, especially if I want to like fully render it and do everything that I'm planning to do. So I'm still tipping my toes into this. It might come out later than the first day of the year, and I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to force myself to get this done on or before New Year's. Yeah, well, that's the kind of mindset that you don't really start out with as an artist. You have to spend a lot of time figuring out, oh, what can I do? What am I not capable of? How does my emotional state, my physical state, my amount of sleep, how do all of those things affect what I can output, and how can I set realistic goals? And that's one of those things I was pointing out to Lpat. You know, that's why the SMART goal metric that I learned from the college class that I was taking is so huge. Like, it's good to set goals and hold yourself accountable, but you also need to be reasonable, and you need to be able to like flex around that so that you don't set yourself up for failure. That's why part of the SMART goal formula is that it needs to be achievable. You need to be able to do it. And sometimes that means, ideally, I want to finish this, but realistically, I just want to spend the time working on it. So you set the goal as spend this much time working on it, not spend this much time working on it and finish it by this time. But you have to understand yourself. Because if you set goals that you aren't certain that you can complete, or you know you can't complete, you're just going to push yourself down, and you're going to lose self confidence, and then you're going to start achieving less and less. Like, at the end of the day, you got to be kind to yourself. It's good to expect things of yourself and build trust with yourself, but building trust with yourself takes understanding that you're not going to be perfect. And you also can't expect like your best work all the time. Like, period. Like some of the fully rendered pieces that I've done, even recently, there is no way that I'm going to put that out every single day. And it may not even be, oh, you just don't care about it. No, sometimes it's just you don't have that in you at the moment. You can't pull that out of nowhere. Like, it's a thing that you have to recharge. Creative energy is not something that you can just put out all the time. And some people just are able to tap into it more frequently. That doesn't make you inferior. It's just you gotta know, you gotta figure out your flow and, figure out how to make the most of it instead of like comparing yourself to other people. You're fine, Prime. You're fine. No, that is easily one of the biggest things that I've learned this year in college is, getting a better understanding of like how much time things are really going to take and trying to work around that so you don't procrastinate. Setting realistic goals, testing the waters to figure out what is realistic, you know. And again, that major thing that I learned this semester was just being kind to myself. Like, there are some times where your work just is not going to be the best. You just have to make the best out of it and go, this is the best that I could do with what I had. Like, that's it. Like, there's no shame in accepting that sometimes you're not at 100%. You just have to do the best that you can wherever you're at. It's like doing this stream today, like one of my smart goals, you could say, was what I had said I was going to do on the DeviantArt journal that I made about December, and I haven't been fully consistent, was that, oh, I was going to stream 2 hours every Wednesday at the same time. That's that I'm going to show up. And I started to feel down on myself and kind of backed out and was like, I'm not feeling it, but like, that's just it. That's part of it. You have to commit, you know. It's something I can do, and there's no guarantee that anything's going to come out of it. But I need to show up regardless of how confident I feel about it. I do whatever I can. If it doesn't get much traction, if I don't get a whole lot done, you know, whatever, I'm not, I have to remember that I'm not doing this because I'm planning to see growth from it and, suddenly blow up. That's never been the goal. And I just need to remember that, like my goal is just to spend time with the people that care about my work. That's you guys. So as long as you guys show up when you can, which I can't control that, locus of control, I gotta remember that too, you know, all I gotta do is just do my part and respect and love myself, which is what this is really about. Yeah, yeah. But and again, at the same time, by doing that, by respecting myself, by loving myself, by doing that and showing up for you guys as well, it's something that extends beyond me. I need to be able to respect and trust myself because you guys do. Yeah, exactly. It's about discipline and constant work. Again, it's about showing up. It's not about the result. It's about being there. And that's exactly why I appreciate you guys so much. And I know it may seem like nothing, like, oh, I happen to be able to be around and say a couple words or whatever, but it really does mean a lot. And I think that's often lost to most people who may not necessarily be artists or tend to just be like watchers or followers. I don't think that they really understand that they're one of the, if not the most imperative driving force to the people that create. Yeah, mindset is huge. Like, I will be real, you know, I'm diagnosed with severe depression, like chronic. No, yeah, it is teamwork. And I think sometimes people don't realize that you can contribute in a way that doesn't necessarily mean that you do the same thing that the people you're helping do. Like when you guys propose questions, when you ask, how would this character react to this situation? You kind of help synthesize new ideas for scenarios for especially people like me to go, oh, you know what? Yeah, what would that be like? How would that character, do I want to draw that even? Like, and a lot of those thoughts lead to new ideas or expanding upon the things that we might not have done on our own. But no, yeah, like Chrissy said, it's not something that can just be done away with. Again, for me especially, it's something that's chronic. And again, I think it's one of those things that's an underlying symptom of a bigger problem that's never been addressed, which is again that undiagnosed autism. But one of the biggest changes that came to me, because I was on medication for it for a while. I've probably said this before. I'll say it again. I've been on antidepressants. But the problem was when I was on that stuff, I didn't feel anything. Like it wasn't just, oh, I'm not sad anymore. It's like I couldn't even enjoy making art. I felt separated from creating. And I couldn't live like that. I felt like a zombie. Like I got to a point where I had stayed off of the medication just long enough that I had that moment of clarity where I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm not even me anymore. And so I would not recommend this to anybody. Don't do this. But I quit cold turkey. That was also rough, but I couldn't do that anymore. That was part of what led to me having a 2-year period of art block where I just couldn't draw. I lost connection with it after going through that. Yeah, but to be clear, sometimes it works for people, and sometimes, like it affects everybody differently. You know, a lot of the times when it comes to medication, people are kind of just throwing chemicals at things and hoping that something works. A lot of the times it takes multiple, trying different meds and different combinations, different doses, figuring out what works. But what I realized was that I had what would be the answer for me to get through it from the very beginning before I had even started taking the meds. And that was when I was seeing a counselor before I had gotten to formal diagnosis and went through that process. And it was that idea of the mindset being the most important thing that, you know, meds might help, but the biggest factor is your mindset. And I think that's for a multitude of reasons. So for me, what I needed was I needed the permission to be able to change my mindset. I needed someone to affirm to me that, something about the conditioning that I was given was wrong. This doesn't actually look half bad. Yeah, it may be worth it to you. I would definitely suggest a psychologist over a psychiatrist because psychiatry is more about like dealing with things on a medical level less than a psychological level. And depending on the psychiatrist, you may get someone who is literally just looking for a commission and is intending full well to push pills. And you don't want that. So I would personally suggest seeing a psychologist over a psychiatrist. That's actually one of the problems that I've been running to while trying to desperately get an autism diagnosis. Is it's been hard to find a psychologist in my area that will do an evaluation, but there's less of a shortage of psychiatrists that will medically deal with, in quotation marks, the quote problem. There are people that still view autism as neurodegenerative and not neurodivergence. And I ended up running into one of those during my search, and it upset me quite a lot. But no, mindset is super important. I know I drifted way off topic. I'm sorry. Um, but no, it's huge. It really is. And that applies to all aspects of life. Like during the college course, I forget who it was, but in one of the TED talks, they talked about a study that basically proved that if you reframe how you view stress, you can change how your body responds to it and make it a positive response rather than a negative response. That not all stress has to be negative or bad. And that's something that I want to try and carry going forward through this next year. Like there was a quote from one of the videos that we had seen as well for one of our assignments where one of the speakers that the college students had talked to had said something along the lines of enjoying the struggle and being worthy of it. And I think that applies to everything, but especially I think it applies to art because art is absolutely a struggle. It's something that does not come easily. But when you get through it and you look at what comes out, it feels like it was worth it almost every time. Okay, now the question is, who else am I going to draw? I at least need to rough out like the overall composition, if nothing else. That's part of why, even though I'm not fully content with the anatomy and the pose yet, I've at least filled out the details. So, I can start to put their silhouettes together and everything and adjust it as necessary later. Maybe not the main three this time. I mean, you're right. Well, one of them's going to be missing from this anyway, but yeah, I'm trying to like focus on the characters that I do genuinely believe are going to be key characters this year in the writing, and I want to like give them more exposure and hint at like, hey, these characters that you guys haven't really seen much of yet, they're about to be important to the story. Lore, yes indeed, and every illustration. Remember, I am Tetsuya Nomura Jr. Everything is canon. Everything is done in a Chekhov's gun style. Everything has a reason. Yeah, as it is, looking at the character count based on who I want to include so far, we're at one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, and including Mitch, nine. And we're going to be at 10 because we need to include Dusk. This is also why I said I'm probably not finishing it by or on the first. Realistically, like it's gonna still be New Year's, but it's probably gonna come after New Year's when I finish this. See, it's too bad this ain't Twitch because I don't know. Can I make a poll on YouTube? Can I do that on the stream? Oh, I can. Oh, let's go. Okay, yeah, hold up. I'm gonna make a poll to decide which of the characters I draw next. Check it out. It works. At least I think it works. Let me know if you guys can actually vote on it. That's cool though. Noted. Hey, that works. I know like I could pull up the reference images of them probably, I guess, but oh, we got a 50-50. We gonna need a tiebreaker. Oh boy. I love how you both chose the ones that start with Y too. That's hilarious. Yeah, so right now it's looking like it's a tie between Yurei or Yoru. Coin flip? Maybe. I'll give it a moment to see if anyone wants to throw their chip in. I'll give it a minute. And then I guess if it stays at 50-50, I'll coin toss it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'll give it like a minute once I see 5:30 roll around. I had a feeling it was going to be the off outside of the main core. All right, screw it. We'll roll we'll roll it. Well, Google coin flip gave me heads, so I'm assuming that's what you meant by face was heads. So it looks like we get Yoru first, and then Yurei. You would think of Joey's deck, wouldn't you, Wheeler? Yeah, no, he does. He has a ton of chance-based cards in his deck, and there's a reason for that, by the way. There's a lore reason for that. Well, what happened is heads won, so we're doing Yoru. Um, but then we started talking about Joey Wheeler's deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because coin flip, and I explained that there's actually a lore reason for why in Yu-Gi-Oh! Joey has a lot of like luck-based cards. You have not watched Yu-Gi-Oh? Oh my gosh! It's fine. I kind of live under a rock too. There are some things that you would think that I would know about that I don't. Honestly, yours was kind of fun to draw. I don't draw her enough. That's going to change, and it's going to change pretty soon. There she goes, hiding the second pair of eyes behind her hair. I'm not literally finding a coin. I did a Google coin flip already. Where are you? Starting to get the impression because I want to draw her like sitting in the background, kind of. I'm starting to get this impression that every instance of Yoru in like essentially promotional art is just gonna be her like sitting, which I think is hilarious. Like, why? Why is she always sitting? I wonder what it means. I don't know, guys. Do you think there's some lore significant reason that she's gonna be always sitting in like every promo art of her? I think it's probably, if I had to guess why I'm subconsciously leaning into that, it's because she isn't actively like working into her role of being an antagonist. She's like a Trojan horse. She's unaware of what's going to happen. So like it's accurate to her as a character. I was making a joke about how in all of the promotional art of Yoru, it seems like she's always going to be sitting, and I was wondering if there were any lower implications for that. Okay, so it is carrying through. I'm just confused because YouTube is saying my audio bit rate is like 0, which is weird. Yeah, okay, then maybe it's doing some buffering thing, or it's something on YouTube's end. Maybe. I just think it's silly that I've had the urge to draw her just specifically sitting at least twice now. It feels like that's going to be her thing. Like in the full illustrations promoting her character, it's like she's always just sitting. And I know me. There's usually a reason for everything I do, whether I'm conscious of it or not. I'm just trying to pick my brain as to why. Thank you, Brian. I will say, obviously, it's going to need ironing out, and proportions and stuff are going to need fixing, but at least the overall feel is starting to get there. Yeah, because I was assuming when they said they wanted face that they meant that they wanted heads, which I did a Google coin flip and heads won. So oh my god, that is so cheeky! Hold up, no, I get it now. That is so cheeky. Okay, okay. So I already knew that I was gonna hide like basically she hides unintentionally the second pair of eyes that she has behind the frills. She never explicitly does it intentionally, but it always makes her appear as if she only has that one pair of eyes for one thing. Welcome back. But for two, this pose as I've started to construct it, I'm going to pull up the traditional art that I did of Yoru for that I used for my color and design class final. Yoru because I think you said you wanted heads, so I did the coin flip on Google and I got heads. But I'm realizing at least I think I could be wrong. Either way, I could still acknowledge the 50-50 by sketching them both. Because I'm not sure if I'm stupid. I don't think it helps that both of their names start with Y. Okay. Yeah. We'll see. I'll try to at least sketch them both out before I hop out. At least that way both of you get acknowledged. Because I might be wrong. I might have missed the 50-50 of. But anyway, I was gonna point out, looking at her pose and the fact that I have her sitting again, it's like almost a callback to the corrupted throne art, but without the malicious intent. That's why I was like, it's so cheeky because it's sort of like a parallel. So it's like both are true to her character and portrayal, but this is like the more innocent, naive side. I'm kind of here for it. I hate when I do stuff like that, but I'm kind of here for it. Anyway, because I'm not sure if I was stupid and might have mixed up, I'm gonna work on Yurei too. That way everybody wins. I just forget if she's supposed to be taller or the same height or so as Mitch. I think she's supposed to be the same height. Anyway, I think I may have mixed them up when I was doing the results because by the way, whatever, they're both getting drilled. They're both getting doodled. I shall redeem my stupid butt. Now I think Yurezume is the same size as Mitch, like height wise. I think. I'm gonna cross-reference some of my arts of the two together since I did doodle them together and see if I can't piece together what I'm pretty sure their canonical height difference, if any, is supposed to be. Because it's gonna bother me if I get that wrong. Which just reminds me that I didn't ever finish uploading all of the Mitch-Kun Minis comic that had to do with your resume. I uploaded like half of it. I have lost it. It is somewhere buried in my files, but Lord only knows if I named it correctly. Let me think, because I know I did some other doodles outside of the formal little comic that I was working on of them together, so I might be able to piece it together. ADHD, people. ADHD. Yeah, no, I don't have any direct one-to-one comparisons that I can find right now, and I'm not going to sit here and make you guys wait forever. Um, though I did draw her shorter than Morgan, and I know that Morgan is taller than Mitch. So I'm just gonna assume that they're about the same height, and I'll refine it later if I have to. I'm not. I'm not gonna sit here and dig through my god awful mess of files to try and figure it out. I also might be able to figure out that if I dig through my DMs with Blue, since we may have talked about her height at some point. But I'm not gonna sit here and hold this up for that. I mean, we technically have infinite time. I'm just not gonna make you guys waste your time. It is, however, time to burn up. That's fair. That's fair. But I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna waste too much time in general. I will take a moment to appreciate the fact that she has beautiful hair. I am definitely gonna have to make a simplified version of her outfit as well because like I I might overdo it very frequently on my outfit designs, guys. What do you think? How much until New Year's? A little under 6 hours left. Yeah, about 6 hours because it's like 6 p.m. right now. daring to attempt to have them holding hands. Good lord. The degeneracy. Chat, they're gonna be holding hands like degenerates. Oh god, I could totally jump scare Blue with this. You know, I seriously bet they had no idea how key of a character that Yurei was going to become in my stuff. I don't think they had any idea. It's funny that you mentioned that, Prime, because while they are obviously, this is me we're talking about here, while they are romantically involved and in fact even married, their dynamic very much is what you would expect out of close friends. They don't allow the romance to make them treat each other differently than when they had really first met. Actually, there is quite a lot of lore behind these two, to be completely honest with you. Again, they have their own mini comic from when they first started dating that I need to upload the rest of because I uploaded like half of it to DeviantArt and then just, I don't know, stopped. Like, they're actually extremely good together. And by the way, read the literature. But no, she actually becomes a key character quite early in the Mitch-Kun's Mansion literature. She has a key role in the past adventure, and I'll get to that. But she is by no means like just a silly guest character that I got. from somebody and then just decided, oh yeah, cool. She is like super freaking integral. Because like part of the reason that Mitch was drawn to her when Gwen took him over to try and get him with Morgan, her sister, because Gwen wanted another Honchko around. What Gwen didn't realize is that Yurezume had a connection with Mitch years ago during the main adventure. Because, spoiler, non spoilers, Mitch dies at one point. And as it just so happens, Yurezume tends to find and seek to appease lost souls, which is part of why she hangs around areas close to death, which makes sense. Oricorio, ghost, right? So she happened to come across him and preserve his soul that would have been lost so that he ends up being able to be brought back from the brink of death. He literally owes his life to this woman. But that's also exactly why she's such an important freaking character. You're good, but no, he's super freaking important. Like, real talk. The man literally owes his life to her. If it were not for her, he literally would have died. Yes, and on more than one and on more than one occasion. Because again, read the literature. I'll point out that this woman, full well knowing, not stupid, knowing that she stands no chance against the Leviathan, literally squares up. Not once, but twice. Both times telling Mitch to run. It's cute, but like it's also deeper than that, right? Like that is genuinely like she genuinely loves him more than life itself. Well, his hand gets kind of forced. Again, read the literature. I will continue to say, guys, trust me, it's not trash. I've taken a college English course. I know at least somewhat decently how to write. Please, trust. uh, I could give you the cliff notes. It's not like it spoils anything, and I'll end up talking about it anyway. Basically, Cornelius plays on Mitch's struggle with masculinity. There's a line where he says, "Oh, you have to have your waifu save you," like ha ha ha, you know. Oh, don't worry, I'll break her legs, make sure she never dances again. All typical villain crap, right? And so Mitch is like, yeah, this is a horrible idea, but it's me he wants, right? It doesn't even really last that long. Mitch has been out of combat for a while, is not feeling it, still mourning the loss of Rusi. So like he gets clapped and then basically almost passes out. And so Yurei goes in and starts fighting Cornelius. she like Yuri actually goes hard. She is a seriously like she's just great. She's just great. No, I mean I don't know. I think it's pretty good writing. I feel like if people aren't reading it, they are missing out on something. I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world. I'm not saying it's the next. Oh man, this is the thing to read, right? But like, I genuinely really tried. Thank you for the lore. You're welcome. You know, it's still not the same as actually reading it, but I gave you the cliff notes. Basically, she is one of the wives that also proves a recurring theme of Mitch is typically surrounded by women that kick more butt than he does. Yeah, you're fine. That being said, I knew I wasn't gonna finish. I knew I wasn't gonna finish this, so I'll still consider this progress. But I'm probably gonna call the stream here. I appreciate y'all coming in here, bearing my cringe, enjoying my lore. It really does mean a lot that you guys show up and that you guys actually like care about my stuff, especially that you care enough to have questions. It really does. So I basically was just saying that I appreciate you guys bearing with my cringe. That you guys are enjoying my lore, and that you guys care enough to like ask questions and stuff. Like that really does mean a lot. but I'm probably gonna call the stream here. Yeah, I don't know about taking it easy, but I'm definitely gonna finish uploading the time lapses for the wife decks on the DeviantArt, and I'll try to start getting stuff set up here so that they'll start popping up on YouTube. Yeah, yeah, and I always appreciate having you. You guys are great. You guys, I don't think you realize how much of a motivator even having like two or three people really is. I appreciate you. So until next time, hope y'all have a good one.